Hello students, once again I welcome you all. Presently we are dealing with Girish Karnad's historical play Tughlaq. So far we completed two scenes from this play, and of course in this class I am going to start with the third scene. If you remember, the first scene opened in front of the Chief Court of Justice in Delhi. The second scene opened in the chamber of the palace, and now as the curtain rises, we are in the very big yard in front of a big mosque in Delhi. Just remember the last statement that I made in my previous class. I told that Sheikh Imamuddin has already arrived in Delhi. He is delivering his speeches, which were the anti-Tughlaq speeches in and around Delhi. Muhammad bin Tughlaq expected his wish to attend the speech which is going to be delivered by Sheikh Imamuddin in Delhi, and now this scene is going to take you all there. Now we are in front of the big mosque in Delhi. Sheikh Imamuddin as a speaker and the Sultan, that is Muhammad bin Tughlaq, as an audience. They have been waiting since long, but even after waiting for long, nobody turned up there in order to listen to the speech which was scheduled. And unfortunately, Muhammad bin Tughlaq was the only audience, and some of the other attendants of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, those who were forcefully there in order to protect the Sultan from any danger. See, the situation was really very embarrassing for Sheikh Imamuddin, because he himself has created his own image in the entire state of Delhi Sultanate, entire region of Delhi Sultanate, and in the past, whenever he delivered any speech, there used to be a huge gathering of people. But today, this speech was personally organized by the Sultan himself, and probably this is the reason that the people were afraid of attending this speech, and there was no opportunity to Sheikh Imamuddin to say a few words against Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Of course, Tughlaq was very happy to see that nobody turned up. He wanted to show off Sheikh Imamuddin that he has his own influence in Delhi, and it is not that easy to speak against the Sultan himself right in front of him. But even though Sultan Muhammad requested Sheikh Imamuddin to begin his speech, and immediately the Sultan invited all his amirs, sardars, khans, and other courtiers of Delhi Sultanate, and he asked them to listen to Sheikh Imamuddin very carefully. But Sheikh Imamuddin was of the opinion not to speak anything in front of the people or the courtiers, those who were the people or a gang of bootlickers. It means the flatterers to Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Because there was no point in talking against the king in front of the audience, who is simply flattering the king, sometimes for no reason. Whether the king is on the right path or the wrong, nobody was saying anything about it, but they kept on flattering the king. And Sheikh Imamuddin expressed his wish that he would like to speak in front of the people, those who believe in the values of Islam and those who are ready to join hands with him against the tyranny of the king. So that was all happening over there in front of the big mosque. And in the meantime, Muhammad bin Tughlaq takes Sheikh Imamuddin little bit aside and wanted to converse with him alone. And in a very polite manner, Muhammad bin Tughlaq tells Sheikh Imamuddin that being a king, he has never compromised with any of the values that of Islam, and more particularly, he never violated the tenets of Islam consciously. But as you know, Sheikh Imamuddin was one of the opponents of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and irrespective of all these statements made by Sultan, Sheikh Imamuddin did not agree with it. In fact, he knew that Muhammad bin Tughlaq is a scholar, he is a man of determination, he understands Quran better, but sometimes in order to maintain his own political influence upon the people, he is trying to show himself as a man who has no biased attitude towards the people of other religion. Of course, the sovereignty of the state comes first for Tughlaq, no doubt about it. But at the same time, Tughlaq has announced to get the political benefit that the people of all religion are equal in front of the state. And then you see now how the dialogue between the two continues for some time. And one thing is all clear for all of us, that Tughlaq, of course, being the king, being the sultan, is a mighty monarch with power, a learned man, an intelligent man, and he is also spreading the message of Islam along with the other preachers of Islam. He is of course trying, on the other hand, a kind of king who treats everybody equally. There is an allegation by Sheikh Imamuddin. Sheikh Imamuddin blames Tughlaq, that Tughlaq is trying to become God himself and assuming himself as if he is a god. And this is the greatest ever sin committed by Muhammad bin Tughlaq in his life, and he should pay a penalty for it. With a cool mind, Tughlaq listens to the harsh words of Imamuddin and finally trying to convince Sheikh Imamuddin that he is not going to make anybody a slave, but he himself is the slave of God. Similarly, he convinces Sheikh Imamuddin that the state is going through a very bad phase now. There is a rebel by Ain ul Mulk who is there on the front with 30,000 soldiers, and Sheikh Imamuddin, who has a great resemblance with Muhammad bin Tughlaq, is talking against him in the city. So he makes an appeal to Sheikh Imamuddin that he very sincerely wants to sort out this political problem. The security of the state should be the first priority. He adulates and appreciates Sheikh Imamuddin a lot and tries to convince him that he should really work as a messenger of peace and non-violence in the region. If at all the battle between or the war between Tughlaq and Ain ul Mulk is going to start, that will be really a great damage to the subject of the Sultanate. Tughlaq very diplomatically uses the language and tries to convince Sheikh Imamuddin that if at all the war between the two begins, the Muslims will be killed by the other Muslims, and that will be a huge loss of the community. And since Sheikh Imamuddin was the messenger of Islam, he continuously preached in order to spread the message of Islam all over. So it was also the responsibility of Sheikh Imamuddin to use his impression, to use his identity as a messenger of peace and work as an envoy for Muhammad bin Tughlaq and approach Ain ul Mulk in order to pacify the rebel. As soon as Sheikh Imamuddin listens such very intelligent words of Tughlaq, he felt like he is really trapped into the words of Tughlaq, and he did not have any other go than accepting the proposal or the offer of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Muhammad bin Tughlaq also told him that he looks like he himself, and if at all he approaches Ain ul Mulk by wearing the robes of the Sultan, and he could really convince Ain ul Mulk for not having any war but a settlement, that would be a great help from his side. Tughlaq very diplomatically also threatens Imamuddin by talking about the fate of Socrates, and he also referred to Plato as a great visionary. He takes the name of Lord Buddha and convinces Sheikh Imamuddin to be the messenger of peace in order to pacify the rebel of Ain ul Mulk. All these developments were consistently going on. It seems that Muhammad bin Tughlaq was really successful in his endeavor to convince Sheikh Imamuddin, and the things were going in the right direction as Muhammad bin Tughlaq wanted. Now you just go back to the previous couple of scenes when I told you that Muhammad bin Tughlaq wanted to hit two birds in one shot. Now he has almost convinced Sheikh Imamuddin to see or to meet Ain ul Mulk and put in some efforts to pacify the rebel and create an understanding between the two to reduce the conflict between the two. And when this man, that is Sheikh Imamuddin, wearing the robes of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, the typical kingly attire of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and accepted the proposal that in order to avoid the massive destruction which will be the result of the war, he is ready to go to Ain ul Mulk and convince him for not having any war with Tughlaq and settle down the matter, whatever political differences they have. I think with this kind of political strategy, Muhammad bin Tughlaq won half the battle. As soon as Sheikh Imamuddin agreed to do so, Sultan could visualize that he is going to hit two birds in one shot. And this was all now settled. Sultan tells Sheikh Imamuddin that there is not even a fly to listen to him actually, but he always listens to the preachings of Islam. He assured him that way, that he will always look after all these values in life. But this time, Sheikh Imamuddin should really extend his helping hand, should work for the maintenance of peace between the two, and there won't be any bloodshed, especially that of Muslim people, as the result of the war. Now I would like to read out a couple of dialogues here. See here, he says, I am willing to make peace, but how can I do it? I don't even know why he has turned against me. See, this is the dialogue said by Muhammad bin Tughlaq. He won't even see my official envoy, but he will see you. He respects you as every Muslim in India does. He will trust your word. That's why I am asking you, will you please go as my envoy and dissuade him from his folly? Please, Sheikh Sahib, I am not asking you only for my sake, but for all the Muslims who will die at the hands of Muslims if there is a war. You can't deny that. This war will mean a slaughter of Muslims at the hands of fellow Muslims. Isn't that enough for the great Sheikh Imamuddin? You have attacked me for inaction. You can't turn away. Now when you are offered a chance, you can't. So, to save the Muslims, the Sheikh must take upon himself the duty of an envoy and ask Ain-ul Mulk to stop war. See now, this dialogue which is uttered by Muhammad bin Tughlaq gives you the clear picture whatever I explained you in the course of last 10 to 15 minutes or so. Very tactfully, Tughlaq has trapped Sheikh Imamuddin. And now Sheikh Imamuddin has also realized that he did not have any alternative than to agree with Muhammad bin Tughlaq and do whatever he is asking to do. So without a second thought, Sheikh Imamuddin agreed the proposal. Muhammad bin Tughlaq does not waste any more time. Immediately he ordered the royal robes for the Sheikh, which he has already got ready for him. He places the headdress on the head of the Sheikh. He dispels his doubts that Ain-ul Mulk will and call him a spy. He says that he will be a messenger of peace, and in the meanwhile he will keep his soldiers ready at Jalan to face any emergency. Sheikh Imamuddin now recognizes that Muhammad is the cleverest man in the world, because the situation which was handled by Muhammad bin Tughlaq It was really the beyond imagination of Najib, the stepmother, Barani, and even that of Sheikh Imamuddin. So this is all about the scene 3. In fact, it's a very short scene, but it throws a flood of light on the character of Muhammad bin Tughlaq and the kind of diplomacy that he had in his lifetime. He has so arranged matters that none has really turned up to listen to him. And that was the skill of Muhammad bin Tughlaq as the Sultan of Delhi Sultanate. So that's all from my end for this particular scene. And maybe in the next class, I will try to highlight on scene number 4 and the further development which is taking place in the play Tughlaq, written by Girish Karnad.